Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this virtual meeting of the Barnstable County Assembly of Delegates Standing Committee on Finance will be conducted via remote means only in accordance with applicable law. Members of the public may watch the meeting through live real-time broadcast at www.youtube.com/user/Barnstable County. A public participation guide and meeting documents are available in advance at www.capecod.gov. The County of Barnstable does not discriminate in the administration of its programs or activities on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, disability, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or other category protected by state and federal anti-discrimination laws and regulations. Reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities are available upon request. For more information or to file a complaint, please contact Christina Marchak, Barnstable County ADA Non-Discrimination Coordinator at jmarczak@capecod.gov. Call 508-375-6646 or visit www.capecod.gov. Members of the public may also attend the meeting remotely through Microsoft Teams, and all of that information is available at the meeting center on the website, which again is www.capecod.gov. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'll call the meeting to order with a moment of silence to honor our troops who have died in service to our country and those serving our country in the armed forces. Thank you. And now those who can will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Clerk, could I have a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Delegate Frizel,
Here.
Delegate Gallagher,
Here.
Vice Chair Killian,
Here.
Chair Oman,
Here.
Delegate O'Malley. Delegate O'Malley. Well, he was here a minute ago.
I see him.
We've got Delegate King as well. And
Here.
we'll see if there's an issue with. Oh, there he is.
Okay, am I back? God, where
You're
am
back.
I?
5 + 1. You're good.
Okay, yeah.
All right, good. All right. Our main purpose here is to discuss proposed ordinance 25-14 to authorize supplemental appropriation of the fiscal year 2026 operating budget. That's the key word. As enacted by ordinance number 2025-3 and 2025-4 for the purpose of funding the Registry of Deeds basement renovation project, authorizing a letter from the Finance Committee on questions regarding Children's Cove is next. Okay, let's go. I know that we have issues. And anybody, I'll be listening to anybody that wants to speak to this.
Which item are we addressing first, Mr.
The
Chair?
first one,
What's that? The 14? The ordinance?
the 14, the major one.
Okay, I have some questions if
I
If
know
that- if
you
it's-
do, and
if
I'm
that's in
very
order.
very anxious to hear the details. Thank you.
sure. So,
Delegate Frizel.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have some concerns with how it's drafted, and perhaps others can explain for me why it's drafted this way and why it could be appropriate. But first of all, it's in the operating budget, which I understand we have a rather hybrid system here of a capital budget, which is an ordinance -01, and then we have operating budgets in -3-4, -3 being our regular expenses, -4 was separating out first-time expenses, new projects, and also one-time expenses. But they have a category for capital in the operating budget, which is something I think we need to get clarified going forward. I'm not suggesting we redo FY26, but I do suggest that we talk about this as a way of working on FY27 and the budget for capital and for operating in the category which is a capital category in the operating budget. which I'm kind of mystified. And I think I may have brought that up last year, but it was too late. So I think we should address that in FY27. But for today in this ordinance, if we go forward with it in the operating budget, I think it's appropriate in ordinance -04 because this is either, well, one-time or new expense. So it doesn't, I think, belong in -03. The second issue is section 3 of the proposed ordinance, which says such funds will be derived from available general fund unreserved fund balance. Okay, I get that. Then it goes on to say, or from such funding source as may be designated by the Board of Regional Commissioners. That I don't get. We control expenses and source of revenue used to fund those expenses. So I don't know why we would have such a broad sort of blank check clause in this ordinance. It should just, in my view, strike those words. Said funds shall be derived from the available general fund unreserved fund balance. And if there's more money necessary for this project, and there probably will be, they have to come back to the assembly for that kind of appropriation. The charter makes it clear. We control appropriations. They rest with the assembly. So I don't see this designation and delegation in effect of this clause. It seems to me, reading it, delegation of our appropriation authority and responsibility, which is contained in the charter. So those are the concerns I have in this ordinance.
And then number 13 on that too says this appropriation shall remain in effect until the completion of the project or until authorized in accordance with the provisions of the Barnstable County Home Rule Charter, Article 5. So I read this after our conversation, Delegate Friesel, and I was very interested in how it was worded, and I'm grateful that you have the legal expertise to delineate these changes and unnecessary open-ended checkbook. So anybody else want to talk about this as it stands right now? And when we're done with that, I'm going to ask what we should do about it. So I agree with you. After reading it, it made much more sense to me. Something that, again, I'm grateful that we have somebody with that kind of knowledge that can delineate that. And I'm not sure that that's what they intended to say or not, but
I don't know.
that is, it's written down. So whatever the intent is, it's time we deal with it and send it back changed so that they have to come back to us with any further discussion. Does anybody else on the Finance Committee? We have a full membership here. And we have and I see, I'm going to defer to my newest member, Mr. King. Delegate King, please. You are muted.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to unmic. I just want to know where
There you
they
go.
intended to get
Yep.
the money in the first place. I mean, if it's just from general funds, do they have
No, no,
other?
no.
Do they have other line items they want to move money out of?
No, I'm sorry, it says right in the article, in the ordinance, coming from the unreserved fund balance.
Right, or
The
but
unreserved
then
fund balance.
That's a surplus.
Well,
It's not coming from any other line item.
Move
It's
money
coming out of surplus.
Other line items.
It's not coming from a line item. It's coming out of surplus.
That's not how it read to me.
Well, that's what the general fund balance is.
Yeah, but it continues after the general fund balance.
Well, that's
You
one of the
said
words.
it's open-ended to move money
No,
anywhere they want.
that's what I'm suggesting we remove.
I agree.
If we put a period after that first sentence and right after the term general fund balance period, and then strike or from such funding sources may be designated by the Board of
Right.
Regional Commissioners.
Correct.
If we delete that, that puts the power back in the proper hands. That's the Assembly of Delegates.
I guess my only question is why did they put that in there?
Well, the general question is why didn't they just put it into capital, which is what it is. But it does seem to have some validity if you go to the one-time number 4, right?
Yes.
It seems as though you could take it out of there if it's a one-time Where am I here?
It's a one-time or a new
A
project.
one-time
and-
or a yes?
Yeah.
Yes, the first
And if
time
you
or a
look-
one-time?
Right, right. And if you look at that ordinance, it actually has a section for the facilities, and it has a category B. And category B is capital. Now, that's how we did the FY26 budget. I'm suggesting, not for today, for us to discuss and debate, but suggesting going forward when we start to look at the 27 budget, FY27, that we have to fix this. I don't understand how capital is in one ordinance, -01, and it reappears in the operating budget as a category item. That to me is puzzling.
That's a good point. Mr. Killian, Delegate Killian, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Could the administration weigh in on these questions that the last two delegates have raised in terms of why the language is structured the way it is?
I don't believe it's been brought up to the commissioners, to the administration yet.
Well, I mean,
No.
he's on the, maybe Administrator Dutton is here. He can bring it up to him right now.
You can see, okay, I can't even see him online. Okay. I would love to do that. Mr. Dutton, do you have any response to our thought process here on the way this is written?
So I would love to give you a very cogent answer, but I am not sure. I'm a little confused myself on the read of section 3, because I don't think there's any intent to do anything different than what we've asked verbally. So I'm a little perplexed by that myself. So my assumption is that that's some sort of template language or boilerplate, if you will. But I don't know. I don't know if Carol has any thoughts on that, but that's my take. So
I
certainly
think
no intent to do anything other
Yeah.
than take funding out of the general fund unreserved balance.
Yes, and I don't think anybody's got any question about the particulars of the $170,000. It sounds like it's a necessary thing that we're gonna have to go through regarding the situation at the Spirit Courthouse. I don't think anyone has brought that up to me anyway, and I don't see any, but
Yeah.
we need to clean up the language, and I want to know the best way we can do that. Can we just send it back to you with the amended language?
I think you could.
I mean, that to me is the cleanest way to do it, but I always defer to Owen to make sure that we're not tweaking the charter in the wrong way.
Certainly you, as part of the legislative process, you can amend the ordinance.
Okay.
At the full assembly before you adopt it, and it is sent back to the board for their action.
Send it back to the board amended and see if they approve it, right? So it won't be the money, it will be the language attached to the
Right.
money. And also, there's a second question that, while I've got you, Mr. Dutton, the second is section 3. I don't know if you heard Delegate Frizel. It sounds like the section 3, if you continued on, it says that it basically is a blank check if we don't stop the section 3, number 8. Such funds shall be derived from available general fund and unreserved fund balance, period. If we strike this rest of that, it's basically line 9 and 10, then we now retain the ability to be asked if there are any more additional costs, as opposed to just saying whatever it is, keep going. That's what it sounds like it says to me.
So I think, my read on closer examination, my read would be that, we're asking to take the funds out of general fund unreserved fund balance. But if for some reason we had to change, I think that language adds some flexibility. If we had to change and propose taking it from a different place, we would have to go, the Board of Regional Commissioners may say, hey, let's take it from, over here instead. But we would still have to come back and go through the same
no.
appropriation process.
I don't know
Yeah,
about that.
let me recognize you,
I'm sorry.
Delegate Frizel.
Sorry. I mean,
But I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Well, I just, I don't see why that's necessary. We know the money is there. That's where you want to take it from. Let's just put it there, period. And not
I'm
deal with that. Yeah.
fine with that.
Okay.
Okay, so if, and again, we'll read this and all agree by vote to change that as well. Just that, and I don't think anybody is complaining about the amount of money that's necessary to start this project, and if it's not complete, to come back to us for more money. I see that as not a big issue. In theory, but if it's written the right way, then you will have. We just want to make sure that the administration, the commission know that they have to come back to the assembly for more additional funding, not just to spend it as they will. So if we can clean up that language today, that would make a lot of sense to me. I'd like to do that. We can probably do it right now, and come to an agreement with the majority of the members of the finance committee. Is there any other issues with this language, Delegate Frizzell, that you see?
Yeah, I mentioned at the first, I think we should strike line 2, ordinance 25-003. I think this comes in 2025-04 as a supplemental appropriation to the facilities budget, category B. That's what it is.
That would accomplish what the intent is of this proposed ordinance. It would give them the $170,000 and $400 to work with to begin with. And if that's not sufficient, that we can come back and talk about additional funding that it will take. That would. Right. So, I would. Are there any further discussions about the intent of this change? If not, I'd like to leave it to our assembly clerk and Delegate Frizzell, who's got a bead on exactly what language this should be, and leave in place the intent of giving the county permission to spend $170,400 at least to begin the reclamation project with the basement of the Registry of Deeds. Are there any comments regarding that? Okay.
Mr. Chair, Delegate Harder's had her hand up for a little bit.
Oh, I did not see Delegate Harder. I will certainly recognize Delegate Harder from Harwich.
Thank you very much. I'm speaking as a citizen of Barnstable County. I'm wondering if we could get Finance Director Capola's opinion on this. Thank you.
I mean, I have no problem with that. Does anybody on the Finance Committee have a problem with asking Director Capola? Okay. Director Capola, can you weigh in on this issue?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you. So the reason why both of those ordinances that adopted the general fund operating budget were mentioned here is because that's a general fund in its entirety. So whether it certainly go to a capital line item, but that's the reason why. And when the Assembly delegates adopted those two ordinances, those were both for the general fund. And so that's the only reason why both of them are mentioned.
And as you remember, I'm sure you heard that Delegate Frizzell also mentioned that inside 2025-04, there is a capital line that could be addressed in that. There is no such thing in 2025-03. So it's if we amend this and you get that $170,000 to spend, do you have any issue with the way we've amended the language?
No, I don't have any issue with it. To me, it's a complete story when we're mentioning both of those ordinances that adopted the general fund operating budget. That's all. But I don't have there's no concern on my part if you choose to make changes to that. We seem to be fulfilling the desire of the county administration to release those funds for the proper purpose. It seems like it's just cleaning up the language and putting a
stop sign before you spend more money than that to come back to us for more money if necessary. And I'm sure we've listened to that with great intent. So, okay, thank you. And thank you for that comment, Delegate Harder. Anyone else on this issue? Okay. Now, to finish this up, should we delineate the language right now? Why don't we delineate the language right now that we're at it? Delegate Friesel, tell us exactly what you would like to strike.
Well,
And we'll see if the
first,
committee agrees with it.
sure. First, I would strike in section 3, it's line, any words after general fund, unreserved fund balance, period. Strike the rest of that provision.
Strike the rest of line 8, the rest of line
9, 10, and 11.
9, 10, and 11. Okay. So it would be just that one line 8 ending in balance, fund
Right.
balance. Good, okay.
And
I'll second
then-
that
That's your
motion.
intent. Well,
I'm not-
let's do both, actually. Let's go back to page
beginning.
1.
I would strike in line 2, ordinances, and make it singular, ordinance number 2025-04. So striking striking 2025-03 and the word and the S on ordinances.
Yep.
And then I would add after 2025-04, it's labeled facilities, I guess, category B. It's in section 6. Facilities, category B.
So after 20-20,
Yeah, I'm sorry,
25-04.
yeah, section 4. It's section 4. I had that wrong. Section 4. Section 4, facilities, category B. And Owen, make sure I have that right, because you have the final signed version of that ordinance, to make sure I got that right.
I mean, to me, the intent is perfect. We were amending it just to clean up the language and prevent excess spending without the authority of the Assembly of Delegates. That's our intent. And I think I'm going to listen to our clerk, Owen Fletcher, please.
You can do it any way you want, obviously, but I do think that if we have a vote on the intent of what the Finance Committee is recommending, that might be cleaner, because I'm afraid that if you get down to this much detail, you're going to lock in your recommendation in a way that I would really like to check with Delegate Friesel and the documents themselves and with the finance director. We've got a week to do this, at least a little more, before we can even vote on it. So I'd like to, if that's okay, work with, once you take a vote on the substance, to work on the specific language with Delegate Friesel and others to make sure we have it right before we go to the full assembly.
So we can take a vote to approve the substance of the changes, but not the specific language.
If the committee's comfortable with that, yeah.
The intent, I want to make sure that with the full Finance Committee, the intent is that we are going to approve $170,400 for the purpose stated in the proposed ordinance.
Right. And I if I may, just on that point.
Please, I'll recognize you.
Yeah, note that we would have to also, and I think, there's a good point here made by the clerk about taking a little more time for care of drafting. I just noticed again, in lines 16 and 17, which is section 2, we again reference this same ordinance 2025-03. So we ought to make those lines consistent with what we propose in lines 1 and 2.
Yeah. Same thing. Get rid of the S and get rid of the 2025-03.
Yeah.
So just the idea, the intent is clear.
Yeah.
We're going to approve this budget supplement, pending proper language to make sure that we're doing everything. We've cleaned up that language. Okay. I don't see anyone else with their hand up. If that is so, Mr. Clerk, can you call for a vote on the proposed change to ordinance, the proposed ordinance 2025-14.
So just to be clear, I mean, we're the finance committee, this is a roll call for the finance committee to recommend approval of this ordinance by the adoption of this ordinance by the full assembly
Substance of the ordinance,
with the changes discussed.
yes. But the substance is the same, but
All
with the
right.
changes discussed.
And we had a second by Delegate O'Malley, right? Back
We have a
little
second
ways.
by Doc, yes. Any further discussion?
Well,
From the
I,
Finance
I,
Committee.
I understood that to mean, I was seconding what I understood to be edits that were proposed by Delegate Frizzell. So it seems to me we need to vote on making the edits first, the changes,
Oh,
striking that.
that's what
language.
we're avoiding saying that editing the changes specifically when we're approving the substance of those changes. And I know they need a second.
That's not clear to me what we're doing. I'm
second
I
sorry.
will recognize you for your concerns, Delegate O'Malley. Please do.
I'll second that.
If we're recommending the substance, are we in fact making those edits, striking this, the second part of the operating budget and striking out the sort of additional funding as the commissioners feel fit? Because
The intent, again, Delegate O'Malley, the answer is we want to make sure that we clean up that language properly over the course of the next week or so. But we want to let the commissioners know in substance, we agree with their spending of $170,400.
I understand that. Then I'll
Clerk
go.
Fletcher, please.
Yes, I'll second that.
Clerk Fletcher, please.
Oh, I'm fine. I just want to make
Oh.
sure that everybody knows what we're voting on. I think there's enough in the record of what you're attempting to do.
I think it's pretty
okay.
clear, but yes,
Would you like a roll call, Mr. Chair?
I would like a roll call on this.
All right. Delegate Gallagher,
Yes, yes,
and F still comes before G, except when I get confused. Delegate Frizzell,
Yes.
Vice Chair Killian,
Yes.
Chair Omen,
Yes,
Delegate O'Malley. I hear from the internet
Yep.
that your apostrophe doesn't count, so OM. So,
Yes.
and that's everybody.
all right, thank you for that. And we just to let the Carol and know that we're definitely going to approve this. We just want to make sure that the language is cleaned up to the effect that we intend, that all of us intended it to be.
And if
And
I
thank you for
might,
your time.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I mean, my plan would be to talk to Delegate Frizzell to work this out, to send it to Michael and Carol, and then to send it to all of you ahead of the meeting. I appreciate the deference of, I didn't want to start inserting in line numbers and page numbers and get it wrong and have you have voted on something and have to unwind that later. We'll make sure that everybody understands what the changes are.
I thank you for that. I'm not a lawyer and I never played one on TV either, so I appreciate your diligence. There's only one other item on the agenda, and that is number 7, authorizing a letter from the Finance Committee on questions regarding Children's Cove. Before we discuss this, I would like, since we have the valuable counsel of our county executive director, can you tell me if you have any updates about the Children's Cove budget as we discussed informally?
I don't have any particular updates. I mean, obviously the departments are formulating their budgets now. I do know that one of the issues that came up, I'm not sure if it came up last year or in the intervening months between then and now, but I think one of the concerns was that Children's Cove had sort of opened up, an office on both islands. And how the county was potentially, contributing to that expense. So I do know, based on what I looked up today and the discussions I've had today. So we have office space on both islands, or I should say, the Cove has office space on both islands for nothing. It's free office space. The staff time and the travel time, staff time, travel expense, all covered by grant funding, both through Cape and Islands grant funding that comes to all the child advocacy centers, also the Martha's Vineyard Foundation and the Nantucket Foundation both contribute to the funding. So there's no Cape Cod government funding going to provide services at on either island at this point. So I do know that. I've got a lot more to dig into, and obviously if you have questions that we can answer, I'll absolutely, I'd love to get those back to you in a timely manner so that we're not we don't drag down the budget process with questions that we can take care of outside the budget process.
Know that when we look at your meetings with the county commissioners, that it was very clear that it's going to be a tough budget year. So that's why we're looking for every revenue source that we can to compensate for those costs that are incurred. That's the reason this came up like that, because we listened carefully to the commissioners meeting when they said it's going to be a very tight budget year.
Yeah.
No, thank you for that. And now we'll go back to the board. I see Delegate Frizzell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm glad to hear from Mr. Dutton that these services on the islands are covered by non-Cape Cod regional government funds, and hope that will continue as we go forward in FY27. We'll have to, we'd like to, in our process, in the budget process, like to see what those grants, how they will be extended into FY27 and cover not just FY26, but FY27. And that raises the general point. I think we all understand the value of these services. That's not the issue. But like so many things the regional government does, it's very valuable. But we have limited resources. So what would be helpful in the budget process is to understand something that seems to underlie this COVE analysis every time. What are we doing in Barnstable County in this area of service that is funded by our county government funds that other DA offices in other counties are not doing? In other words, and how are we different if we are? Maybe we're not. I don't know. But it would be helpful, I think, to bring us that kind of information on this budget so that we can stop talking about, oh, we're doing something other DA offices don't do in other counties. Let's put that issue to bed one way or the other. That would be helpful.
Point very well taken. And I do two things on that specific to the COVE. We will get that information. There are child advocacy centers are a relatively new thing over the last 30 years. So there are many different variations on how they're funded, how they're set up, who runs them, under what government entity they run. Are they independent? Are they nonprofit? So there's a whole realm of different options there and different ways that they're run. So we'll get that information to the committee. But we also just to sort of reiterate what you said about the grant funding and identifying the grants. I think we went through a really good process where the Finance Committee really dug into the grants and wanted to know more about them. And absolutely, they're a critical part of what we do, and they fund a critical part of what we do. So what I've asked the department heads to do this year as part of their budget process is not give us a copy of every grant application, because I don't think you want to read 500 pages of nothing. But list the grants, list how much they are, and then what do we do with those grants? And at least that gives you sort of a baseline understanding of how we leverage sort of the general fund budget in ways that ultimately benefit the towns and benefit everybody on the Cape. So that's in the works, and it'll be exciting to see. It'll be exciting for us to sort of brag about the grant funding that we do get, quite honestly.
Yeah. So. Right. Thank you. That'd be very helpful. I'm glad you're taking that approach.
So we'll proceed to probably construct a letter to send to you and to the Cove as well, you know, so that we can get straight on what we really would like to do. And we're all for it. I was interested to see that the state of Massachusetts sends grants to the CACs statewide. I wonder if they send grants to Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard that is not part of Barnstable County government.
So the interesting thing about our Child Advocacy Center, it's a Cape and Islands Child Advocacy Center. So it's set up to service the Cape, obviously, and both. Yeah, exactly. And so the grant funding that comes through the state, you know, comes in that sort of form, Cape and Islands funding. But we can we'll break all of that down in a very written, in a way that is hopefully clear. In a written document of some sort.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time as well. Thanks. So do you want to continue with the letter, how we want to construct it? Has anybody got any thoughts of the 5 members of the Finance Committee? I think Mr. Dutton kind of already put the words out there that we need about child advocacy. I'm concerned, again, I know we're the Cape and Islands. I guess that's what's always come to us, but these are new initiatives within that structure that we are now taking on. We have apparently we have offices in both Dukes and Nantucket County, and there are going to be additional costs to service those offices. And if we've always had the same amount of money, I wonder why we haven't served them before. I mean, there's some confusion there for me that I would like to clear up, and that would be part of my thought process is where is that money gone for the last 10 years or 15 years? If we haven't had offices over there, have we just performed them magically? You know, I don't know. So that's my thoughts on that. Anybody else? I'd love to hear from my committee. No. Well, Delegate O'Malley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I was looking for my notes. I couldn't find them from prior meetings, but it's my recollection that we drilled into this same question and were reassured by Director Gallagher that this was funding for which they had grants to cover it. Now, I think we need to consider what happens in the future and be aware that that may not continue indefinitely. All funding, that's that all granting is that issue. But that's my recollection, was that these were not going to add to our costs. They're under the jurisdiction. They're in the islands are under their jurisdiction because, of course, they operate under the district attorney's office. That's the way these children's centers work across the state. So, and the DA's office does serve the island. So that's why we're kind of melded together. But we are apparently not carrying, as I understand it, we are not covering the costs for the services on either island. And that's really from memory. That's from memory. I can't find my notes right now.
Delegate Pryzell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think what that I agree with the Delegate O'Malley that that's my recollection. I don't have my notes at my fingertips about that, but I just would like to understand how, you know, we somehow have the islands as our responsibility. And I understand right now we have the money coming from grants, but we could still have the responsibility without the grants. So what kind of additional liability are we taking on in Barnstable County that other counties and DAs, you know, don't take on? I guess I'd like to understand why we are in this position. I mean, it's great if we have the grants and we can do the work, but we may still have we may have the responsibility without money in the future. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's a concern I have.
You know, and following up on that, you know, it's called the Cape and Islands, so that is 3 counties, but it's called the Cape and Islands because they're connected to and funding for in many of the counties the district attorney's office. And it's to my knowledge that our district attorney's office has not given any significant amount of money or time to the CAC in these 3 counties, as opposed to say Worcester County or whatever. There's 12 other DAs in the state. We just happen to have a DA that covers 3 counties. I don't think anyone else does that. But I'm concerned that this funding should possibly, we should be discussing why our district attorney's office hasn't had to help fund the CACs as most of the other counties in Massachusetts have. Did I see your hand up? Yes. Delegate O'Malley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We, as I understand it, we are uniquely here on the Cape. We're the only county that is responsible for the CAC. Every other one of them is under the DA's office and or a hospital or other institution, primarily hospitals. So we are rather uniquely exposed to that question, and I believe it. You know, it's something we ought to clarify going forward in terms of that puts us in a position where if partners on the islands fail, where does that leave us in terms of funding? And I think that becomes a question as we look at the budget this year. But that's the short answer. We're the only county that's actually carrying a CAC.
And I want to make sure that we were very clear. I don't think anyone doesn't think that the Children's Club does great work and they do amazing job at what they do. This is a question of why we're funding the entire package for 3 islands with 1 grant from the state, and the rest of it comes right out of our county budget, which is problematic, especially with the tenacity that's going on federally with our grants and federally with our ability to pay for all of these services that the Barnstable County needs. So I want to make sure we delineate that no one's questioning what Children's Cove does. They're magic what they do. I think that they're providing critical assistance for the most needy of people on Cape Cod. But how to pay for it is another story, and that's our job. Delegate Friesel, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. You were asking what the letter, maybe the
Yes.
content of the letter is quite simple. I mean, following up on Delegate O'Malley, is it true that we're the only county, I mean, where we're picking this up and it's not a DA office expense? And if so, why is that the case? Explain the history of how this all evolved so that we're in this position. And if we are in this position, how do we get out of this position? I mean, if we're the only county where this is happening, why is that so? And why should it continue to be so? So again, it goes back to what I said earlier. Let's put this to rest once and for all about whether we're a standout county on this and whether that is a legal obligation we just simply cannot release ourselves from, as opposed to all the other counties and their DA offices.
Yeah, I know that other counties' DAs don't do the entire budget, but I think that money comes through the state into the DA's office. We just don't have that funnel of money coming directly to Barnstable County because of whatever, like you said,
Well,
whatever history
Let's get
is,
behind that. Let's get
Yeah.
behind that history and,
Yeah.
and deal with it. Yeah.
and deal with that in the letter. I hope Clerk Fletcher is listening to this because I'm going to depend on him to help write that letter in cogent terms and Emma as well, so that we can get to the bottom of this and find out how we can get some relief from funding the most important job that Children's Cove does. If there's financial relief to be had, let's find out how we can get there. Okay. Anybody else as far as content of that letter? I don't see any hands up. And you're welcome to join in, Mike, if you wish. I mean, I always leave it open to everybody on my FinCom committee. So as long as I'm chair, I do anyway. So we'll see what happens there. I see Delegate O'Malley again.
Well, clearly, if we're in a position, we're going to write Children's Cove director and pose some questions that we would like to see answered. I think the other piece that is hanging in the wings is the expansion project, a big capital project. We approached that last year. It was taken back. Where do we stand with that? What do we see as projections? What are we expecting? That was a heavy hit. That was a heavy lift.
Again, I'm going just leaning back on my 29 years on the assembly. I'm pretty sure that we're the only county that provides a building for a CAC too, you know, for building. So, and again, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to get anything taken back from our CAC. I'm trying to find other partners that will help us fund them properly, as opposed to having the entire burden on Barnstable County, especially as we go into these very difficult budget cycles coming right up, as delineated by the county commissioners. So that's what I want. I want to share the expense with other agencies that are commonly doing it statewide. Cape Cod Hospital, you know, Cape Cod Healthcare, that they could be partners with us too. You know, there's a lot of other places to go rather than the 100% of the burden becoming on our very small county budget. Anybody else on this issue? Oh, I see Delegate O'Malley again.
I would say further on that line of need to pursue other funding has been pushed in Health and Human Services. That has become a kind of a recurring issue in our last two budget cycles. They need to look further. They specifically need to address Cape Cod Healthcare, who has community development, who is mandated to make available to the community a certain amount of funding every year under federal requirements. That's money that they should be pursuing. And
you've asked that question directly to the folks over at Children's Cove, right? Your committee has done that
in the previous two cycles. Yes, we have.
Thank
and
you
that's
for
been
that.
addressed in writing and in reports.
Delegate Killian.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So just procedurally, we're going to vote on sending this letter, but the contents of which are going to be essentially at your discretion, and we're going to send it out, or we're going to get this letter back and vote on it?
Yeah, let's get the letter back and vote on it. I think
Okay.
that we should have it. You're absolutely right. I think we should have even if we do it a 5-minute meeting, you know, we call a meeting, but Zoom it and vote on it. That's fine too. But it's budget season, so let's see what we can do to get this letter written and approved by the Assembly Finance Committee. I agree. And it's a timely matter, but it is something that we really have to press, because again, we don't serve just children here. We serve 225,000 residents of Barnstable County, and everyone needs services. And if we can spread the expense into other traditional parts of Massachusetts, like the state government and hospitals and other such, even private financing, you know, I know that there's some groups that do that too. They help along with that too. And I think we have a Friends of Children's Cove group. I don't know financially what they do, but those are the kind of questions that this letter should address in much more forceful terms. Is like, we need to find some solutions to how we got here and how we can believe and keep the Children's Cove whole and the wonderful work that they do, but share the pain of financing those. Never mind the additional building costs that they say that they will not come to the county for. So I think that's pretty well done. I see outside the committee, I see Delegate Harder with her hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a reminder that I believe it was 2 years ago, maybe even 3, when the new district attorney, D.A. Galabois, came to the Assembly of Delegates. He explained then why they didn't have the money to take over Children's Cove, because the Cape wasn't getting the same amount of money other district attorneys were. So I don't know if that's changed, but you might want to make sure this letter is CC'd to D.A. Galabois, because he testified about this 2 or 3 years ago.
And I think he's done a fine job. But maybe we should ask him directly. I think he's been asked pretty much directly. I believe he's up for re-election. Might be a campaign promise that we can get. to move forward with that. I think if it, I'm sure that, Clerk Fletcher has done some research on how many district attorney's offices give to their CACs and in what manner. But maybe we could ask that question once again and find out some specific information, because it's really important. Why would our district attorney's office get shorted out on that if 12 other ones get it? It doesn't make any sense to me, but that's just another question to ask. And we have to move forward with helping ease the pain of doing all of this work ourselves and keep Children's Cove whole at the same time. Delegate Frizzell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I keep coming back to sort of repeating the same theme here, but in the course of finding out why it is we're getting less than other offices, what does that mean for our obligation? I mean, we need to understand what our legal obligation is to finance and fund. Maybe, you only can do what you get funding for. And so we need to look at that as a budget item. If we're getting less, it may, we don't like being in that position, but it may mean that we can't offer as much as these other counties who get more money. So I think we have to put it in the context of what are we obligated to do in connection with the funds we're getting here from the DA.
That's a tough road for me to go down. I maybe that's a 5-year plan that we can say, look, we have to find other funding, and we can put pressure on the district attorney. We can put pressure on our state legislature. They know, they know that he's not getting any money. So
my point in saying that, Mr. Chair, was not to suggest we cut. My point in saying it is that we at least give the information of what it is we are obligated to do and what we're doing beyond what we're obligated to do. But
should we become to the position that we can't afford to do everything anymore?
Right.
That's like what are our, that's an excellent question to ask. What are we obligated as a county to do to fund a CAC?
Right.
I mean, I don't want to go on that road dollar for dollar, but I would like to know what that is. That's a great question.
I think we should know it.
That's a great question.
Yeah, it's our obligation to, to look at all of our obligations and finance those, and then what else we can finance beyond those obligations.
Okay, thank you. Have we talked this out? I don't see anyone else's hand up right now. Okay, so we want to authorize our clerk to construct a letter with this content of our discussion today, with the help of Emma, and get back to us with a letter and a formal vote by this committee.
I would move that. Yeah, second.
You moved it. Okay. So moved, and who's my second?
I am.
Who
That's
made
Carl,
the?
sorry. Frizzell is second. Killian has made the motion.
Okay, good. And is there further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, I'll call for a roll call.
Delegate Frizzell,
Yes.
Delegate Gallagher,
Yes.
Vice Chair Killian,
Yes.
Chair Omen,
Yes,
Delegate O'Malley.
Yes.
That's everyone.
very much.
Can I ask who has availability for next Monday so we can kind of get some of this stuff done before the next meeting on the 17th? Any takers? Saving me some quorum calls.
I'm available.
I mean, I'll do it if I have to, but we're already going on your job description, so you and I on side. So I would love someone else from the committee to volunteer, or someone from the audience.
No, I'm just saying that, maybe you'd wanted to have this back in front of the finance committee and also the amendments as well. So, is anybody available or unavailable 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock next Monday? Can we get a quorum to do those votes ahead of the?
I see Delegate King has
meeting on the
his hand
17th.
up. Delegate King.
Yeah, I'm okay that day, but I wonder why you don't call me on the roll, Owen, so.
Oh, because you're an
Well, because
alternate
you're
this
an
evening.
alternate.
Yeah.
I see,
You're
okay.
welcome to participate, but only 5 can vote.
Okay, thank you.
I'm available next Monday, but I have a drop dead time of 5:30.
Stu. And I see Delegate O'Malley with his hand up.
I have tentative plans to be out of state next weekend. I may not be back by time of a meeting, so that I have to leave that. That's not clear, but I'm a kind of a maybe at this point.
Keep in touch with the clerk, please. Delegate Gallagher.
I will be on an airplane next Monday afternoon. Not available.
Not you. Okay, thank you. for that.
This is why we have alternates, and we only need 3 for quorum. I will include all of you by email, and if you've got something for the committee, I'm sure the chair or the vice chair, if he's chairing the meeting, I'm sure we can get this done on Monday. Is what I'm trying to say, and I'll
Excellent.
definitely include all of you guys in the back and forth, so that you can put in any comment you want to.
Any further discussion or issues out there? Mr. Clerk, roll call to adjourn.
Well, do we have a motion in a second?
I
Motion to
would like
adjourn.
a motion.
Second,
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Delegate Frizzell,
yes.
Delegate Gallagher,
Yes.
Vice Chair Killian,
Yes.
Chair Omen,
Yes.
Delegate O'Malley.
Yes.
I believe that's everybody.
Thank you all, and the other folks. Thank you for your valuable time we did today. Thank you.
Thank you.